Now it's time for my favourite part, pattern drafting. So I already had my designs for the things that I wanted to make, but obviously now it was time to start creating patterns for those so that I could actually cut them out and sew them together. So I started off thinking about my trousers, because even though obviously I had my more structured trousers and I also had my tracksuit trousers, and then I also had my dungarees, and even though they were all going to be slightly different, I knew that I could start them off from the same place, because they're all trousers. So I started off with a basic trouser pattern, and then I just altered it so that the waist would be the size that I wanted it to be. I made it to fit kind of like an average 32-inch man's waist. I didn't want to make it too small, but I didn't want to make it too big. So for my more structured trousers, I didn't do many alterations. I tapered them in slightly, but I knew I wanted them to be like a very straight fit, so I didn't want to taper them in too much. Whereas for my more tracksuit bottom type trousers, I knew that I wanted them to be much skinnier, so I just took a lot more width off the leg, but I left the waist the same, I left the crotch measurements all the same, and I left the length all the same. It was just taking some width off the leg so that they'd be a more tapered fit. For my dungarees, I used the same pattern as my structured trousers. All I had to do for the dungarees was work out a pattern for the bib element and the straps. So it was all relatively simple. I would say the hardest part of my pattern drafting was figuring out the inside pockets for both the structured trousers and the dungarees. I didn't put any pockets on the tracksuit bottoms because I figured it wasn't really necessary. For the structured trousers and the dungarees, I did kind of like the style pockets you would see on jeans, and I'd never done that before, so that was my hardest part. But once I got it, it wasn't very difficult. It took me a while to figure it out, but it didn't take me many attempts to get my pattern right. I only really had to make 2 toiles maybe. Just the main thing for me was to get the pockets right, to get like the width and the depth of the pockets and to get them to sit right, and also to figure out what fabric I was going to use for the inside of my pockets, because the fabrics I had chosen for my designs were too thick to create my pockets out of. Then, when all my patterns were made, I could move on to constructing my garment.